Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. Now I'm joined with Victoria Wolf, who's a fellow RVer, fellow full-time RVer. Always want to put that full-time RVer in there. We're not just weekend warriors here. And also co-founder of GF Explorers. We're going to talk about all that. But first of all, Victoria, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here and to talk to a fellow full-time RVer. It's really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to this. So before we get into the conversation, though, just introduce yourself to the listeners, in your own words. Who is Victoria today?
Who's Victoria today? Ask me tomorrow and it might be a totally different answer. My husband and I sold everything, set off in April of this year to live the full-time RV life. We both run a business, Wolf Design and Marketing, where we help authors publish their books to Amazon and Ingram Spark and elsewhere. I do all the creative, book design, interior covers, stuff like that. He does all the production. We also have a YouTube channel where we share not only our RV adventures and lifestyle, but cooking videos, because we both love to cook. We've been doing that before we set off on our RV journey. And I'm gluten and dairy free, and so I share all gluten and dairy free recipes, which, don't be scared, they're normal recipes just made gluten and dairy free. And I'll tell you how to make them with all that gluten and dairy in them. And we're just loving life right now.
Yeah, actually, I watched the video you just did. I don't know if you just did it. I just saw it today about the green beans and bacon, and I love when you said about everything's better with bacon, and that's so true. So
It is. Bacon makes the world better.
I'm hoping somewhere in our travels we cross paths, if nothing else, just to eat something that you guys are making. So
Oh, that would be wonderful. And we keep telling other RVers that if they see us in a park, stop by, because once a week, if not more, we're doing a cooking video, and we always have extras. And especially in December, if you see us, stop by, because we're doing a lot of drink videos. Rich is going to do 5 different mules. I think we're doing a Napoleon. We're doing lots of drinks. So yeah, we love to feed people. So don't hesitate to stop by if you see us. We always have a sign out front, so you'll know it's us. So.
Cool. Definitely will take you up on that down the road for sure. So tell me a little bit about, I love connecting with other full timers and, really understanding what the inspiration was to, sell all of your stuff and, start out on this crazy journey that, some people think is crazy. We think it's perfectly normal. So what was the inspiration? And, was it your idea? Was it Rich's idea? And did it take whoever's idea it was, did it take a lot of convincing for the other to get on board?
That's a really good question, because I think people really want to know how this all goes down. It's like you just wake up one day and go, oh, we're going to become full-time RVers. And that kind of sort of happened with Rich and I. I also, in a previous life, Rich full-time RV'd for about 2 years. And so he had the experience, and it was something he really enjoyed. He was out in the early 2000s, which was a completely different, world, RVing and than it is today. And we, a couple years ago, we had a business, a gluten-free baking company that we poured our whole heart and soul into, and we thought we were going to turn it into a national brand. We were on our way, and then things went wrong, and so we closed in early 2020. It was extremely heartbreaking. Previous to that, he had been introducing me to RVs. We went to the Denver RV show a couple of years in a row, and I knew nothing, never even set foot in an RV. I didn't like camping. I wasn't part of that at all. And then when I saw the RVs, they had, the big kitchens and the living rooms. I'm like, I could live in this. This is cool. And I've always wanted to full-time RV, even though I had never set foot in an RV. How weird that is. And then when the business closed, we're like, what's next? And, we're the kind of people, we like to have something to strive for, have a dream. And we're like, we've got nothing keeping us in Denver. Our son was graduating from high school. He was going to, get started with his life. And it's like, we're going to do this. So we set a 2-year plan, and we did everything like we thought we were going to do. And then we set off in April, and nobody had to convince the other person. We were both on board. We were excited. It was, we had to do a lot of research. We wanted to do it right. My biggest thing And I don't know if he had to convince me. I think I had to learn for myself what was internet. I did not want to have to sit here and wait for my computer to do things or say, oh, I can't do a Zoom call because I have no connectivity. So I always said, as long as I had the same internet or, that I have in the house, I'll go anywhere. And that holds true. That's like it, and it's even better than I thought it would be after we've been out on the road for a while now.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that and why internet's so important to you guys. I talked about your YouTube channel just, again, very briefly in the introduction. But that's only one of three things that you guys are doing, as entrepreneurs. And, again, life on the road and trying to run a business and how dependent you are on internet. Talk a little bit about that. Like you said, I know you guys do Starlink. Um, so it seems like you were able to kind of just, with today's technology, be able to adapt and make that jump relatively easy. Has there been any challenges that you've run into with running the businesses on the road?
Luckily, not big challenges. They've been little tiny challenges. We have a PepWave Max Transit, dual Max Transit modem. We have two SIM cards in there. We have an AT&T and a Verizon. And so I primarily run off of those as long as we have good signals. That would probably be the only possible issues we've had. In some areas, Verizon's doing good, AT&T's bad. Rarely is it that. It's usually Verizon's not very good and AT&T's very strong. And in this location that we're in now, it is the first time since we've been out on the road that both are strong. I have upload speeds I have never seen before. It's like I don't want to leave. It's so whatever's going on here, it's perfect. And then the last location we were at, AT&T was useless. So I was running on Verizon and then Starlink. We have Starlink. We got that a couple months into our journey, and that has been a game changer for us. It's a backup for me. Rich uses it on his computer entirely to do all his, he Wi-Fi's to that. And then we use it for streaming, which is really nice. So we don't use, because we have data limits on both of our SIM cards. And now with Starlink, we kind of have a data limit, but that's like a terabyte, which is a lot of data. But it's been very smooth sailing. I did learn early on with Starlink that for me and sometimes for Rich, not good for Zooms because of sometimes the latency, or if we're obstructed, then a Zoom you'll get the unstable internet. But for the most part, it's worked wonderfully, and I can have up to 7 to 10 Zooms a week, and then he has Zooms. I'm constantly uploading book files and downloading, and I don't see any problems. And then all the videos that we do too. So yeah, I'm loving the internet on the road.
Awesome. Is there anything that you didn't expect about the full-time lifestyle? I mean, obviously you had a little bit of a, you know, me and Sandy went into this completely blind. Like I never even drove an RV until the day we drove this thing off the lot. So we went in completely blind. You had a little bit of a benefit in the fact that Rich did it
Mhm.
for 2 years earlier. But were there anything, good or bad that really surprised you about the lifestyle?
Um, yeah, we had a big benefit with Rich knowing everything. He had so much confidence. He'd never driven a fifth wheel. He was in a Class A before, but he has no problem driving. He's done amazing. And then he knows about black tanks. He knows about all those things. I think for me personally, the biggest thing that shocked me was my anxiety. I have a bit of anxiety, always have, kind of a high strung person. But when I got on the road, my travel day anxiety was so intense that I actually questioned myself whether I was going to be able to continue with RVing. And I haven't talked about it a lot. I'm going to do a video about it because I think there's a lot of other people out there that feel the same way, and it's just something I think should be talked about. I was just terrified. I mean, every time we're on the road, I'd hear a noise or a bump, and I just it was irrational terror. I will state that. And then when I'm in the rig, I'm always listening for sounds. What's that sound? What's happening? Is the propane tank going to blow up? It's all these things that you never think about in a house, because in a house, things don't go wrong typically. They've been building houses for a very long time. There's lots of rules, there's lots of, guidelines. But in an RV, and if you watch a ton of RV videos before you go out in RV, you know all the bad things that can happen. The tire blown, the fire, all these things. And so I got myself a little caught up in that. And the more that I was out on the road, the calmer I became, and I won't say I'm completely over it, but it just took me by surprise. I never thought I would be scared, and but then I rationalized, like, I want this lifestyle. I'm going to figure out a way to deal with this, and it did not help that I think a week and a half into our full timing, we were still in Denver, kind of doing our shakedown runs. We're in Cherry Creek State Park. Rich is waking me up at 4 o'clock in the morning, going, the camper right next to us, is on fire, and I'm like, oh, my fears have come to fruition. Things do blow up in the RV world, but yeah. But I'm better now.
Yeah, it is funny because we're in a class C. So yeah, there's times we're driving down the road and you hear something, you're like, all right, what just fell back there, or whatever the case is. Especially anytime you're on I-10, which we seem to have hit, more often than we want to, traveling the southern part of the U.S. Um, it's not the best road in the world, so there's definitely times like, all right, what just happened when you hit that pothole, or whatever the case is. But you deal with it, and I think the benefits far outweigh the negatives for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
they do. And we got independent suspension in July, just a couple months after we started this. And it was crazy how much difference that made with my anxiety. The entire truck and rig don't feel like they're gonna, like, bounce off the highway anymore. And so that made a huge difference for me. So if anybody has travel anxiety, and I also want to state, I'm not the driver, and I have this travel anxiety. Rich, he's fine. He has none. He just looks over at me and goes, "Yeah, this is great. I'm doing fine." But I think not being in control, not being the driver, brings its own kind of anxiety. But yeah, so if you have passenger anxiety, get independent suspension on your rig. If you have a big rig, that will help, for sure. And the other thing that helped me was knowing everything. If I know how everything works and I understand what's normal and what isn't normal, then I have so much less anxiety. So, just putting your head in the sand and going, I don't want to know, I don't want to know, that at least doesn't help my anxiety. So,
right. Yeah. So, um, for us, one of the things that's been so amazing to me in this journey is just the people that we've met, and the people in the RV community. It was just something that I just did not expect. It just has totally blown me away. It really is, a sense of community, and we were very involved in our community back in Pennsylvania. But it's just such a different level, even though we don't see some of our other full-time RV friends as often as what we may have seen our neighbors back home. Um, that sense of community is just so over the top. It's like going back to yesteryear, where people are willing to help each other. And we had an issue with our water pump when we were heading to a volunteer project, actually right here in Lake Charles, where we are now, last March. And once we got to the project, like, everybody was willing to help us. There was another one there who actually had a spare water pump for us, and helped me change it out, because I'll be the first to tell you, I'm like the most technically uninclined and mechanically uninclined full-time RVer in the world, probably. So and what was cool about that is, like, these guys didn't just jump in and change it for me. Like, they walked me through it on how to change it myself. So I was learning something as well. And have you had that same experience with the RV community, and has that surprised you? Or, again, with Rich doing it, was it something that he kind of prepared you for, like, hey, this is going to be really cool, these people are, your quote unquote salt of the earth humans? Or did it come as a surprise to you?
I think for Rich, when he was out RVing, he told me about the community and how tight it was. But it was a different type of community when he was RVing, and he was a lot younger. Whereas you fast forward 17 years, and there's so many different people out RVing than were when he was full timing, which I love that. And I don't think I expected such, even though I watched so many videos, I knew, but I didn't know until I got into it, the diversity. And everybody is so helpful and kind, and you roll into a park and everybody in the office is just everybody is helpful. And we want to give back and be part of that community too. And there have been a few instances where we've helped other RVers, or RVers have helped us, and just everybody's just so friendly. I love the whole wave thing. And it's like every time you go by, you just wave, and if you say everybody says hello. I can't tell you how many times back in Denver I'd be walking, going out for my daily walk, and you get a few hellos. Most of the time you don't get any looks, you don't get anything. And now you walk in the RV parks, oh hey, how are you? How's your day? Where you know? It's really wonderful. And that community also translates to online. It's a huge community on Facebook and Instagram, and we all keep up with each other, and it's really wonderful. I do know that if anything happens, if we need anything, I don't have to look very far. There are so many helpful people surrounding us, and I've never experienced that really in life, so that was a pleasant surprise. I mean, we haven't been as involved in our community when we were in our house because we were always working too much, and one could say we work a little too much now too. But yeah, it's such a great community, and I think it's strong because this is our home. I mean, wherever your home is, you're going to create community around you. So we have a strong community in this park, and then when we go to the next park, and that's one of the things I really really love too. It's like you're surrounded by different people all the time and different experiences, and it's really really fascinating
Yeah.
and fun.
Yeah. So I know we talked about this on offline, but we haven't mentioned it, during the podcast here at all. But you know, how long are you guys in a certain spot, and how does your work schedule, so to speak, factor into when you're planning how long you're going to stay in one location?
Our sweet spot is every 3 to 4 weeks, and we've done a few weeks and 2 weeks throughout the year, and so we've done enough of it, which was good because the more moving you do early on, I think it really helps you set your moving day plan, your process, which is really really important. At least it was for us because we're kind of process people when it comes to that. But now that we've been out for a while and we've had a month here, and then we had 2 weeks, and so we've been able to compare and contrast, and so 3 to 4 weeks is kind of our sweet spot. And when you move, it's a full day event. Even if you go 2 hours, it's still a full day event. You got to break down, set back up, and so that takes a work day out of the equation. And so the fewer times that we move, the better it is for us in our work, and that disruption, because it's like the day before you're planning, the day of. So it's really kind of a 2 day. And we try to move on the weekends, but it doesn't always work that way. So sometimes it's during the week. But the other reason is we like to dig in and explore where we are. We call it live like locals for the time that we're here. And I think that you really get a good idea of the area when you do that, and you visit out of the way places. You're going to the local butcher, the local fishmonger, and wherever other people shop, the local shop. And so we like to kind of feel like we live here for a while, and that's hard to do in a 1 to 2 week stay.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. So just want to shift gears a little bit and talk about your publishing business. So, again, as a self-published independent author, I love kind of connecting with others in that field, so to speak. And I mean, you guys have been doing the publishing thing for a long time. So how did you get started in that um, back in the day?
Well, it was I kind of got it started because I've been a graphic designer for 31 years, and then in 16, which I think was 20 something years into my career, I had someone I work with just reach out to me and say, "Hey, you want to do a book cover design?" And I'm like, "Well, I've never done a book cover. Sure, that'll be fun." So I did the book cover, and it was such a fun project. I enjoyed it so much that I'm like, "Okay, this is all I want to do." And so I started concentrating on book covers, and I got hooked up with some self-publishing consultants and book coaches, and they were starting to send me more authors. And so I was building the book design business and kind of getting rid of all my other clients that I had at the time. And so then I started getting into interiors and ebooks. And then when our gluten-free business ended in 2020, Rich was like, "Okay, what do I do next?" I still kept the whole marketing and design business going throughout that. And so he became a self-publishing consultant, working with the company that I've worked with, since 2016. And so now we both work in the business together. He handles the production side, getting the author through, getting it up on Amazon, helping him with marketing, all the things all the behind the scenes things it takes to get a book published, whereas I do all the creative stuff. But between the two of us, we're in every aspect just about of, the whole process of publishing a book. And it's been fun. And people are writing books all over the place, and I love that because everybody has a story, and everybody's story is valuable. And I love hearing everyone's stories. That's one of the things I think I love the most about what I do.
Yeah, yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I do the podcast as well, and I have such a you know a, a really huge array of different types of guests on the podcast because I do believe that everyone has a story. So it kind of it helps as far as I'm concerned, it kind of augments the writer side and the author side of me perfectly to be able to tell these stories as well. And I just think it's fascinating. And I think the independent publishing has opened up so many doors for people to get out, and get their stories out there, as opposed to writing a manuscript and trying to send it off to, in some cases, hundreds and hundreds of publishers, hoping that someone picks up that manuscript. Um, so you know apart from just the storytelling as well, when you're connecting with your authors and helping them through that process, I'm assuming a lot of them are first time authors coming into it, and again it can be a pretty crazy world of independent publishing. So you know what is it that you guys are doing, helping them through that initial process? And I'm sure a lot of authors have some anxiety going into it, and hoping that they made the right choice with you guys. And because again, there's I went through it myself. I worked with a hybrid publisher for a little bit, and it was an absolutely horrible experience. And then I
Yes, it can be.
went right back to just straight independent publishing. So what's that process like for you guys?
Well, yeah, there's everything that you said. There's all of that involved. And what we do is we're not technically publishers. We help people. They all self-publish. It's all under their own imprint. They own everything. They own all the rights. We just walk them through the process. We, kind of handhold, walk, inform, educate, because there are so many areas in the self-publishing process, which you probably know this, that you can make some serious mistakes, especially when it comes to Amazon. You can spend money you don't need to spend. You can, get confused. And we're there to make sure, that everybody knows the steps and they get from I started writing to I'm a published author with as little, anxiety as possible. I think one of the biggest things when people sit down and start to write, they don't understand the importance of editing. That's part of our process too, is we connect our authors with editors at whatever stage they're at. If you're just starting to write, you might need a writing coach. If you've already written, you're probably going to need a developmental editor to take a look at your manuscript, make sure that everything is tracking, that you've got a good story, or maybe there's better ways to tell your story. And if you're all done and you've had that editing, we also help with the proof edit. So there's 3 phases of editing. And the thing I always want to tell authors or would-be authors is, and I used to think this too, it's like you sit down, you write your book, you're done, you hand it off to somebody, and if somebody doesn't say this is the most amazing writing I've ever read, you think you're not a writer, you're a bad author. And I want to let everybody know it is not. It's so much different than that. You can write. Writers are about the ideas and the concepts and the information. The editors are what help you polish that. So you think about when you're back in school and you turned in your paper and then you got it back and had all those red marks on it and it just devastated you. It's like, oh my God, I got all this wrong. But that's what an editor's job is they're going to guide you, and you kind of want to see those red marks and those revisions, because they're going to help you take a good book and make it an amazing book. And so I always say editing, if you're going to spend any money in this process, and there's a lot of money to spend to self-publish, definitely do not skimp on your editor. But yeah, and when you had talked about the anxiety, which is real for authors, there's certain phases you see it throughout the process. One of the most distinct phases is right before the book goes live. You go to upload to Amazon and it's going to go live, because that's when you start most authors start getting that fear is it good enough? Could I have included this? Should I have taken this out? What about it's a natural anxiety because you're putting yourself out in the world, and it's a very vulnerable thing that you're doing, especially if you're writing a memoir or something that's really about you. And it can be terrifying, and we help authors with that too. But it's yeah, it can be terrifying.
Yeah, yes, it can be. And yes, take the time to invest in an editor. It's hugely important for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to shift gears again. So, um, you guys decided you're going to embark on this, this full-time RV journey, and you know, each of you share a love for food, and you talked about, gluten and dairy free. So you decide to kick off this YouTube channel as well to, not really just, document your travels, but document, the GF Explorers is gluten free. So talk a little bit about, what was it that made you guys say, hey, while we're out there cruising around the world and, you know, doing our thing, we can also do some videos of, cooking videos and travel videos. What was the inspiration behind wanting to share that part of your story?
Well, when the gluten-free business closed, one of the main reasons we did the gluten-free business was it was kind of a calling for the gluten-free community. Because back when we started the business, there weren't a lot of options. We specialized in pizza crusts and breads and things that the gluten-free were missing. And so I've always felt it was a calling to put out knowledge and recipes and information for people to live a better food life, because I've been gluten free for almost 16 years, and the first 3 to 5 years were horrible, and it wasn't pleasant. I went in, and then I found my way, and then I wanted to share that with everybody else. Rich has no food restrictions, and when we got together, he took it as a challenge to make all of his favorite foods gluten and dairy free, because we love to cook. And so, I mean, we have a gluten-free house for the most part. He gets, he brings in a few things that he likes to eat, or he can eat whatever he wants out. But he loves the gluten and, and dairy-free cooking as well. And so I guess one of the ways maybe we also coped with the business closing is like, okay, well, we're going to start a YouTube channel. We're going to do cooking videos, because it's something I've always wanted to do, was cooking. And I think Rich did as well. So we started that about in April of 21. And then we started the RV videos later in 21, as we were searching for our, picking what rig we were going to buy and everything. And we weren't really sure those two things went together. but we're like, okay, well, this is our lifestyle. We're kind of doing videos about our RV lifestyle, and our lifestyle is food. We're all about food. I mean, we get to a place and it's like, where's the nearest grocery store? We want to see, what they have in this grocery store. We want to go to independent grocery stores. We're just obsessed with food. So that's kind of our RV POV. And so we just decided we're gonna do both. So every week we have a cooking video, and then we have an RV lifestyle video. And sometimes they overlap, and sometimes they don't. And lately we've been doing a lot of food shorts and even RV shorts. But food is like, you can't live without food. I mean, so it kind of goes together. And why should you eat bad food? I mean, that's how we look at it. And now, granted, we cook probably 95 to 99% of everything we eat on a daily basis. We don't go out to eat much, because it's really hard for me to go out to eat. So we're a little bit different. We understand not all RVers are just in the kitchen all the time. And we also have a very big kitchen in the model of rig that we chose, so it makes it easier to cook. But even if people can get little snippets of ideas of cooking, that that means that we did good, we did our job. So
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Victoria, is there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to bring up to the listeners that you think would bring them some value?
that's an open-ended question. I think I'm gonna be looking back a lot in about 4 months as we hit our year. And I think the thing that I'm going to resonate with the most is make it, if there's something you've always wanted to do in life, but you didn't think you could, change that mindset. Just do it. I mean, life, you hear it all the time. Life is short. You don't know how long you're gonna live. Tomorrow's not promised. Yes, that's all very true. But until you make that decision, you're not going to go anywhere. And as crazy as full-time RV living sounds to many people, I think it's the thing that has, really brought me a great amount of joy and helped me to find out who I really was. I've had this inkling my whole life that I was a nomad. I didn't act like a nomad. I lived in homes for 10 years, 15 years. I mean, none of that showed up, but that was there. But I never honored that. I never even explored that. And so now, every 3 to 4 weeks, we go somewhere different that really feeds my soul. So I would say, don't wait, just whatever it is. It may not be full-time RV living, whatever it is you've always wanted to do, explore. You may find out you don't want to do it, but if you don't explore it, you never know.
Yeah. 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 That's so true. Another full-time RV friends of ours, and I did a podcast with them probably about a year ago now. And they had mentioned as they were kind of going through this process that they came to a point where they said, you know what, we're never going to be as young as what we are today. So let's just do it. Let's just make
That
the
is very
decision
true.
and do it. And it's so true. So I love that. And it's a great perspective. And, again, hey, full-time RV life isn't for everyone. Like I get that completely, but there's so many things that, in life we hold ourselves back from because we're scared of what might go wrong, what could possibly, not go right. And the truth is, like, if you just take the leap and find out, at that point, when you look back, at least you did it. You tried, regardless of what the outcome is. So I love that perspective for sure. So
That's very true.
yeah. So Victoria, how do people find you if they want to, check out some of the videos or, the website? If, there's any independent authors out there listening who are looking to get through that self-publishing process, how can they find all of the, multitude of things that you guys do? How can they find you?
Okay, for RV and cooking videos, we're on YouTube at GF Explorers. GFexplorers.com is our website, which also has all of our links for Instagram and TikTok and and Pinterest, everywhere that we are. It's primarily, and also Facebook at GF Explorers. And then on the publishing side, wolfdesignandmarketing.com. That's our website. You can contact myself or Rich through there. And you also can see a portfolio of quite a few books that we've done. And the other thing we didn't talk about, that this is the one thing that fell by the wayside as we got full-time living, is I'm also an artist, and I've been trying to build my artist business, but I haven't been painting much. And that would be victoriawolfart.com. Also
Yeah,
a published author too, and you can find out information about that there. So.
absolutely. And for those watching on YouTube and not just listening to the audio, I believe the painting in the background there is one of your pieces. Is it not, Victoria?
Yeah, yes, it is. That when we moved in, we had a handful of paintings, and Rich was adamant about they're everywhere in this rig, and that just made my heart sing that he wanted to make sure that my paintings were up. And yeah, that's called Trees of Pain. Yeah, my art's a little weird, so but that's okay.
That's cool. So, Victoria, that brings us to our final question. As you know, the subtitle of the podcast is Many Little People in Many Little Places, which comes from the opening lyrics of a Michael Franti song, Gloria, which go, when many little people in many little places do many little things and the whole world changes. So it's one of the little things that Victoria does on a daily basis to make the world a little bit better place.
Oh, I treat others how I would want to be treated. I've always lived that way, and I try to be kind. Oh, I am kind, but I don't say try to be. But if everybody was just a little bit kinder to everybody else, the world would be a much better place.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. I love that answer. Folks out there listening, be sure to check out my other podcasts and blogs at journeymymotherson.com or danclouser.com. While you're there, pick up a copy of my most recent book, Journey My Mother's Son, Volume 1. Victoria, again, I really appreciate this conversation. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully we can connect down the road somewhere. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I had lots of fun.